Hello and good day everyone. In this video, I am going to start the discussion of the contents of Lesson 4, Assessing Student Learning Outcomes. Before that, here are the specific learning outcomes of this lesson. At the end of the topic, the students are expected to 1. Clarify the principles in assessing learning outcomes. 2. Construct a scoring rubric. And 3. Show appreciation to student diversity as they consider the different multiple intelligences in giving assessment tasks. The first topic is the principles of good practice in assessing learning outcomes. Assessment is an integral process for determining the nature of and extent of student learning and development. This process will be most effective when the principles of good practice in assessment are taken into consideration. First principle: the assessment of student learning starts with the institution's mission and core values. There should be a clear statement on the kinds of learning that the institution values most of its students. Second, assessment works best when the program has a clear statement of objectives aligned with the institutional mission and core values. Such alignment ensures clear, shared, and implementable objectives. Third, outcomes-based assessment focuses on the student activities that will still be relevant after formal schooling concludes. The approach is to design assessment activities which are observable and less abstract, such as to determine the student's ability to write a paragraph, which is more observable than to determine the student's verbal ability. Fourth, assessment requires attention not only to outcomes but also and equally to the activities and experiences that lead to the attainment of learning outcomes. These are supporting student activities. Assessment works best when it is continuous, ongoing, and not episodic. Assessment should be cumulative because improvement is best achieved through a linked series of activities done over time in an instructional cycle. 6. Begin assessment by specifying clearly and exactly what you want to assess. What you want to assess is or are stated in your learning outcomes or lesson objectives. The intended learning outcome or lesson objective, not content, is the basis of the assessment task. You use content in the development of the assessment tool and task, but it is the attainment of your learning outcome that you want to assess. This is outcome-based teaching and learning. Next, set your criterion of success or acceptable standard of success. It is against this established standard that you interpret your assessment results. Example, is a score of 7 out of 10 the highest possible score acceptable or considered success? Make use of the varied tools for assessment data gathering and multiple sources of assessment data. It is not pedagogically sound to rely on just one source of data gathered by only one assessment tool. Consider multiple intelligences and learning styles. DepEd Order Number 73, Series of 2012, cites the use of multiple measures as one assessment guideline. Learners must be given feedback about their performance. Feedback must be specific. Good work is positive feedback and is welcome, but actually is not a very good feedback since it is not specific. A more specific, better feedback is you observed rules on subject-verb agreement and variety of sentences. 3 of your commas were misplaced. Assessment should be on real-world application and not on out-of-context drills. Emphasis on the assessment of higher order thinking skills. Last principle, provide opportunities for self-assessment. Let us go now to constructive alignment. An important consideration when designing a learning experience, course, or program is to ensure assessments and instructional strategies are aligned with the intended learning outcomes, according to Biggs and Tang, 2011. Creating an aligned design focuses instructional strategies on development of knowledge, skills, and values while providing formative feedback and preparing learners for formal assessment. Look at Figure 11. Establish learning objectives. Write clear, measurable outcomes of student learning in line with assessment criteria. Provide learning opportunities means design content, fine-tune teaching and assessment to provide multiple opportunities to achieve all established learning outcomes. Assess student learning. Teachers implement their planned assessments to determine whether students have met the intended learning outcomes. Use the results from the assessment. This means to use results to understand and improve student learning and fine-tune teaching strategies and practices.
Good day everyone, I am Walandri Makari, currently taking a Bachelor of Elementary Education at Negros Oriental State University, Sharon Campus. Today, I'm going to discuss about the lesson under the unit for assessing and students' learning outcomes. And the main topic is all about the variety of assessment methods, tools, and tasks. So, let's proceed to the assessment methods. So before we proceed, let's define first what is assessment. Assessment, it is a process of obtaining information that is used for making decisions about student, curricula, program, and schools. And is collecting information to help decide the degree to which the student has achieved the learning outcomes. The goal or the purpose of assessment is to provide students, parents, teachers with information about the progress of the students and extent of attainment of the expected learning outcomes. And it is also to improve the quality of teaching. The traditional assessment method and the authentic assessment method. What is traditional assessment method? It refers to the usual paper and pencil test. It refers to the conventional methods of testing, usually standardized and used pen and paper with multiple choice, true or false, or matching test items. And authentic assessment method, it is called alternative assessment. Assessment that is where the students are asked to perform the real-world test for them to demonstrate the meaningful application of what they have learned in a certain subject or a certain unit. For us to have a better understanding about these assessment methods, so I prepared a table here. First, their purpose. First is the traditional assessment in the first column. So the purpose of traditional assessment method is to evaluate if the students have learned the content, to determine whether or not the students are successful in acquiring knowledge, to ascribe a grade for them, to rank and compare them against standards or other learners. While the purpose of authentic assessment method is to measure students' proficiency by asking them to perform the real-life test, to provide students many avenues to learn and demonstrate based what they have learned in a certain unit, to guide instruction and to provide feedback and help students manage their own learning to evaluate students' competency. So authentic assessment methods, it is to develop or to enhance the skills of the students. Like for example, skills like communication skills and the critical thinking skills. And now let's proceed to the advantages and disadvantages. First is the advantages of the traditional assessment method. So definitely it is easy to score and teachers can evaluate students more quickly and easily. The objectives reliable and valid. While the disadvantages of the authentic assessment method rather is harder to evaluate since you have to observe how the students demonstrate or perform the certain task that you are given, which is relevant to the real world situations and susceptible to unfairness, subjectivity, lacking objectivity, reliability, and validity if not properly guided of by well-defined clear criteria or rubrics and standards. So you should have to prepare, you should have to plan the rubrics and the objectives of that certain performance. And the disadvantages of traditional assessment method is provides teachers with just a snapshot of what the students have truly learned and assesses only the lower level thinking cognitive skills. Focuses only on the student's ability to memorize and recall information. Time is fixed and limited, so the students are time pressured to finish the test. While the advantages of the authentic assessment method rather is to provide teachers with a true picture of how and where their students are their learning. It gives a more information about their students' strengths, weaknesses, needs, and preferences that aid them in adjusting instructions towards enhanced teaching and learning. And it enhances students' ability to apply skills like critical thinking skills, the decision making skills, the communication skills, and the life and career skills and knowledge to real life situations. So taps high order cognitive and problem solving skills. So those are the advantages and disadvantages of the traditional assessment method and the authentic assessment method. And now let's proceed to their examples. So first is the traditional assessment. In the first column, it is a selected response. Under the selected response, this is the alternate response. So example, matching type and multiple choice. And the second column, which is the constructed response. Under the constructed response, it is the completion. So there's the short answer, essay, restricted or non-restricted, and problem solving. And next is the authentic assessment. In the authentic assessment, in the first column, it is the product. For example are the product output, visual graph collage, and reflective journal. And then the next column is the performance. That is the performance task experiments, just like in the picture. There are the two students that are they're experimenting of something that is related in science and presentations and dramatizations. So that those are the examples of traditional and authentic assessment method. And now let's proceed to the portfolio. So portfolio, what is portfolio? Portfolio is a limited collections of a student's work used either to present the student's best works or to demonstrate the student's educational growth over a given time. A portfolio is not a sample scrapbook or collection of all student work, according to the NETCO and Brookhart of 2014. And what is the purpose of portfolio? So first is to monitor students' progress, that is formative, and next is assessment of student achievement, that is summative, and determine students' grade, summative. And now let's proceed to the types of portfolios. So first, the showcase or the presentation portfolio. So often showcase or presentation portfolio focus on the portfolio as a product and also called professional portfolios, formal portfolios, or career portfolio. It involves sharing students' work with others, probably beyond the teacher, and actively seeking in audience and feedback. And it is used to share students' best achievements or evidence of the learning of over a given time. And students are generally given the choice to decide what is published or what is the content inside the portfolio, and it assesses with self-marketing, online branding, or building a positive digital footprint. The that is the showcase or presentation portfolio. And now let's proceed to the second, the process of learning portfolio. So a process of learning portfolio, it is a work in progress, ongoing process. So the purpose is to capture the learning process. It is also called a development portfolio, a reflection portfolio, or a formative portfolio. It can include a variety of learning attempts or unpolished documentation, along with reflections on struggles and challenges during the process, according to Port of 2021. It demonstrates the work in progress and allow for self-assessment and reflections or insights. Now let's proceed to the third one. The assessment portfolio, it is used for accountability. What is the use of assessment portfolio? It is used to document what a student has learned or demonstrates that they have mastered elements of the curriculum. According to the Port of 21, it is very useful within the school environment because it provides the evidence of learning to teachers for them to determine the progress, and administrators and assessment portfolio may be less useful for overall student development. And next is the last is the hybrid approach. Hybrid approach. Hybrid approach, these are the combination of the showcase process or assessment portfolio. But first, what is showcase? So, as I've mentioned before, a showcase, it is a collection of base work over a given time. It is called presentation, formal, professional, or career portfolio. Written after learning takes place and may involve student choice. Process, a work in progress. Process, a work in progress. It is called the learning development. It determines the weaknesses, the strengths of the students, their challenges, their achievements during the process. For them to record it, and it is written at the learning is happening during the process with a focus on reflections, and it is also the self-assessment. And the assessment is often more formal and less student-centered than a showcase or process portfolio. Documents learning in line with curriculum objects. And so these are the hybrid approach, that is the combination of showcase, process, and assessment. So those are the types of portfolio. So again, the types of portfolio are the showcase or presentation portfolio, a process portfolio, and the assessment portfolio. And lastly, a hybrid approach, which is the combination of showcase, process, and assessment. So that's all about my topic for today. Thank you for listening.
Today we are going to tackle about the types of portfolio. So, um, but before that, portfolio, let's know first what is portfolio. Portfolio, it is a limited collection of students' work used either to present the student best work or to demonstrate students' educational growth over a given time. A portfolio is not a simply scrapbook or a collection of all of a student's work. The work put into a portfolio are carefully and deliberately selected so the collection as a whole accomplish its purpose. So let's move to the types of portfolio. So my assigned topic is my assigned types of portfolio is about working portfolio. So the first type of portfolio, this is also known as teachers and student portfolio. This is the first type of portfolio and based its name, it is a project at work to reflect the activity done by the teachers and students. It documents the stages of learning and provides the progressive records of students' growth. This is the interactive teachers and student portfolio that aids in the communication between teachers and students. And here as well, the working portfolio, we can diagnose the student's need. So here in the working portfolio, this contains all, it could be graded, it could be draft, or it could be anything doing in student inside the classroom. Whatever activities had done inside the classroom, in doing this portfolio, teachers are aware of the student's strengths and weaknesses and achieving the learning objectives that the evidence there is inside the portfolio. So this happens that the students, whatever papers at hand, every day during the entire academic year inside the portfolio. So this means that you are building or adding the portfolio every day during your placement of every task you are completing.
assessment is a perpetual work in progress. Good morning, everyone. Before I will proceed to my main topic, let me introduce myself first. I am Marian Lumactad Chanilla from Bachelor of Elementary Education or BE-Ed third year. And I am currently studying at Negros Oriental State University, Shaten Campus. And I am currently enrolled in the course Ed 302. Now, let's proceed to my assigned topic. My assigned topic is under Lesson 4. It's all about assessment strategies and multiple intelligences. And the second one is all about assessment of learning outcomes in the K-12 program. So first, I will discuss to you about assessment strategies and multiple intelligences. So when we say assessment, it should reflect the diversity of intelligences and learning of students in the classroom. For example, students who are good at the spatial learning might not display the full range of their knowledge on an essay test. In fact, traditional testing methods are inherently biased towards students with strong linguistic and mathematical skills. Next, let's proceed to the 9 intelligences of multiple intelligences theory. So first, we have the verbal linguistic intelligences. So when we say verbal linguistic intelligences, this is well-developed verbal skills and sensitivity to the sounds, meanings, and rhythms of the words. The second one is the mathematical logical intelligence. When we say mathematical logical intelligence, this is the ability to think conceptually and abstractly and capacity to discern logical or numerical patterns. The third one is we have musical intelligence. So when we say musical intelligence, this is the ability to produce and appreciate the rhythm, pitch, and timbre. The fourth one is we have visual spatial intelligence. So this is the capacity to think in images and pictures to visualize accurately and abstractly. The fifth one is we have bodily kinesthetic intelligence. So this is the ability to control one's body movements and to handle objects skillfully. The sixth one, we have interpersonal intelligence. When we say interpersonal intelligence, this is the capacity to detect and respond appropriately to the moods, motivations, and desires of others. The next one, we have the intrapersonal intelligence. So this is the capacity to be self-aware and in the tune in the inner feelings, values, beliefs, and thinking processes. The last multiple intelligences is we have the existential intelligence. So this is sensitivity and capacity to tackle deep questions about human existence such as the meaning of life, why do we die, and how did we get there? So now let us proceed to my second topic, which is assessment of learning outcomes in the K-12 program. First, let us define what is K-12 program. So the K-12 program covers kindergarten and 12 years of basic education, 6 years of primary education, 4 years of junior high school, and 2 years of senior high school to provide sufficient time for mastery of concepts and skills, develop lifelong learners, and prepare graduates for tertiary education, middle-level skills development and employment, and entrepreneurship. So each student in senior high school can choose among 3 tracks, which is the academic, technical vocational livelihood or the TVL, and the sports and arts. So the academic track includes 3 strands: business, accountancy, management or BAM, humanities, education, social sciences or HESS, and the science, technology, engineering, mathematics or the STEM. So, students undergo immersion, which may include earn while you learn opportunities to provide them relevant exposure and actual experience in their chosen track. So now, let's proceed to the levels of assessment. So the assessment process is holistic, with emphasis on the formative or developmental purpose of quality assuring student learning. It is also standard-based as it seeks to ensure that teachers will teach to the standards and students will aim to meet or even to exceed the standards. The students' attainment of standards in terms of content and performances, therefore, a critical evidence of learning. The levels of assessment will be defined as follows. First, we have the knowledge. When we say knowledge, it refers to the substantive content of the curriculum, the facts and information that the students acquires, tools, paper and pencil test, or multiple choices, true or false test, matching type, constructed response type with rubric as a scoring guide. The second level of assessment is the process. So when we say process, it refers to the cognitive operations that the student performs on facts and information for the purpose of constructing meanings and understandings. So this level is assessed through activities or test of analytical activity. So the tools are outline, organize, analyze, interpret, translate, convert, or express information in another format. So draw, analogies, construct graphs, models, flowchart, and mind maps of graphic organizer, text or diagram, and etc. The third level of assessment is understanding. So when we say understanding, it refers to enduring a big ideas, principles, and generalization inherent to the discipline, which may be assessed using facets of understandings, and this assessment should be required ability to synthesize, generalize, and judge accordingly. So the tools here is that to explain, interpret, apply, and give perspective, and etc. The last level of assessment is the product or performances. So when we say product, this refers to real life application of understanding as evidenced by the student's performance of authentic tasks. So at this level, students are expected to be able to apply what has been learned in contrived or real situations. So the tools here is that participation in group project and experiment,